Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Matty here, and today we're talking about a deck that I believe it might be the new strongest deck in Pokemon Pocket, and that is going to be Decidueye EX. So Celestial Guardians just released, and I opened a bunch of packs last night, and I was looking through all of the new cards in the expansion, and one of the new cards that they did not announce previously was Decidueye EX. Now Decidueye is probably one of the most surprising cards that I have ever seen come to Pokemon Pocket, alongside Rare Candy here in this new expansion. This card is absolutely incredible, so I knew it would be one of the strongest Pokemon to come out from this expansion, so this was what I wanted to kind of focus on in my first video of Celestial Guardians. This is what I believe might be the new strongest deck in Pokemon Pocket. Now, I do think that Decidueye is going to be a major player in the upcoming format. However, I guess we don't necessarily know exactly how people are going to be playing Decidueye EX, but this Pokemon has 170 HP, and it's got two different attacks. It's a Stage 2 Grass-type Pokemon, retreat cost of 1, it's weak to fire. It has two attacks. The first one here is the most interesting one. For two colorless energies, we have Pierce the Pain. This attack does 100 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon that has any damage on it. This could be the bench or the active spot, and that's two colorless energies as well. We also have two grass energies, Razor Leaf, 80 damage. So of course, Stage 2 Pokemon have been buffed tremendously with the inclusion of Rare Candy, which we'll pull up right here, and this allows us to basically go into Decidueye on turn 2 and potentially do 100 damage to our opponent's benched Pokemon. Absolutely insane. Decidueye is super strong. It's got a ton of flexibility, and in this deck we're actually pairing it with the Water Shuriken Greninja, which again came out in Genetic 8 packs, but this allows us to deal damage to any one of our opponent's Pokemon, 20 that is, with Greninja's ability, and then we can target that Pokemon with Decidueye. So really good synergy between these two Pokemon. This was sort of the initial concept that I had for the deck list. Again, this is going to be sort of just a maximum consistency build. I think there's going to be a lot of different ways that we can play Decidueye. I think it's a really strong card. We could pair it with maybe Spiritomb, or you could play it with other grass-type Pokemon, or you could, I guess, just play it by itself. But I wanted to play it with Greninja because I thought they went together really well. A couple notes about this deck list is that we're playing exclusively grass energy. So I know Decidueye has colorless energy in its attack cost, meaning you can play it in a lot of different decks. And Greninja, of course, needs water energy to attack, but I think overall, the main reason why I wanted to run purely grass energies in Decidueye, and why I think it's probably best to do so no matter how you're playing Decidueye, is because of that second attack here, Razor Leaf. There are scenarios where our opponent doesn't have any damage onto it, so we have to go ahead and just attack the active for two grass energies doing 80 damage Razor Leaf, and then we can follow up with Pierce the Pain. The great thing about Decidueye is that your opponent cannot run, and I guess they can heal, but they can't, retreat to the bench and then be safe from your attack. Decidueye can do 100 damage to any Pokemon as long as it has damage already onto it. The other reason why we're running just grass type energies in this deck is because the new Skill Dive Rowlet, which pairs extremely well into Decidueye. So this is a 1 energy attack that allows us to do 10 damage to any one of our opponent's Pokemon. This means right from the get-go, we can actually target one of our opponent's bench Pokemon, deal 10 damage to it, and then on our second turn go into Decidueye and deal another 100 damage to it. So a really strong deck list. We are playing a 2-1-2 line of both Decidueye and Greninja. If we take a look here, so 2 Rowlet, 2 Decidueye, and then 1 Dartrix, 2 Froakie, 1 Frogadier, and 2 Greninja. So that's sort of how I'm choosing to play this deck list, with 2 Pokecoms, 2 Pokeballs, 2 Research, 2 Rare Candy, and 2 X Speed. So this is a very bare bones maximum consistency deck. I'm not adding really any of those sort of new cards that I guess could be really good. Things like the new Tool card, I forget the name of it, but it does increase the HP of Grass-type Pokemon by 30. That is really good. We could also be playing, any other supporter cards that are good. The new Lily, which can heal 60 damage. So there's a lot of options here. I wanted to basically just play, 2 copies of everything to give the deck the most consistency as possible, as my phone is ringing. Sorry about that. And X Speeds, which again allows this deck to be a little bit more consistent off the jump if we do lead with Froakie, so that we don't have to, attach an energy to that active to then go into our Decidueye turn 2. That's really what this deck is all about. Decidueye turn 2, but also basically forcing our opponent to hopefully go through 2 Decidueye EXs with 170 HP. It's pretty strong. So my experience with this deck has been phenomenal. It seems really strong. And that's enough about the deck list, guys. Let's get right into the video. We'll play some gameplay and we'll talk a little bit more about the deck list. But again, these cards are new, so so many people might not even know what these cards are, so I wanted to at least talk about them before we go into it. But like I said, I think there's going to be a lot of different ways that you might be able to play Decidueye. I think it's very flexible. Again, the colorless energy and its attack cost, and then all of the other new cards that came from the set. I think there's a lot of options, honestly, and it might take a week or two for people to, completely really figure out the best way to be playing Decidueye, but one thing is for certain, I do think that Decidueye EX will end up being one of the strongest cards, or if not the strongest new card to come out in Celestial Guardians. Extremely, extremely fun. We are going up against a grass-type deck, which is interesting, and we are leading off with Pokecom, Rare Candy, Froakie, or 2 Rare Candies with Froakie and Rowlet. So we're going to go ahead and always lead off with the Rowlet is sort of what I believe is the best call for this deck. And we are actually playing against sort of the Nidoking and Nidorino deck. And we actually lead off immediately with Decidueye, which is definitely really strong. We are going first. So one thing to note about this deck list is that it definitely always wants to go second, because then we can skill dive on our first turn and then go ahead and pierce the paint on our second turn. But we did top deck that Decidueye, which is really, really good. I'm actually just going to bench the Froakie for now, and we're going to pass. So we're probably going to be in a scenario where we might just evolve next turn but not do any damage, which might be fine. The other thing we could do is not evolve and then play skill and then attack with skill dive and maybe do a little bit of chip damage so that we could follow up you know, do some good damage that way. The other card that I think, you know, you could fit into a variety of different deck lists, and I believe we want to target the Nidoqueens. I believe Nidoqueen is what's sort of doing the most damage in this particular archetype here. Now, we aren't in ranked battles. The ranked battles haven't started yet, so that's one thing to keep in mind. It will be at least a little while until the ranked battles come up, probably a day or two. So for now, to get gameplay of this particular deck, we're not able to play ranked mode, so we might find some really interesting decks, but it should be fun. Maybe we'll get some inspiration in our opponent's decks as well. So here's the thing. So we could just Rare Candy immediately into Decidueye. We do have another Rowlet, which I probably kind of want to bench. However, we could Pokemon Communications it away to maybe find a Greninja this turn. That could also be really, really good. And you know what? I'm not in a super scared position right now. We also still have a Pokeball in our deck. I am actually going to get rid of this Rowlet. So let's see, on the off chance we do find one of our Greninja, which we do, which is absolutely phenomenal. Now we can just double Rare Candy. And this is the power, truthfully, of Rare Candy. And I am going to evolve the Decidueye as well. Just an absolutely incredible start to have both Stage 2 Pokemon out on our second turn. Now, we cannot attack the Decidueye this turn because we went first, and that is certainly a downside, but what we can do is start targeting our opponent's Pokemon here with Water Shuriken, and that is certainly going to be really, really good. I'm actually going to target the bench just in case that's the one he evolves, because we can always just attack the active for 80 damage next turn. That way we have some flexibility. We could target the bench or the active Pokemon with Decidueye. Really, really strong here. He is going to choose to evolve the active into the Nidorina. He might have Rare Candy in his Stage 2. No, it seems like he does not. So he's just going to go ahead and hit us for 30 damage. That is certainly really good for us as we top deck another Greninja, but we don't need any more cards, I don't think, for this particular matchup here. I am going to go ahead and Water Shuriken this other Nidoran. And then we're just going to go ahead and Razor Leaf the active and take the KO. So again, we're going first. Now imagine everything that just happened in this particular match, but we're going second, and we could have actually just Razor Leafed on our second turn or just attacked with Decidueye on the second turn. This deck is super, super explosive, and I've been experimenting a little bit as to sort of the best ways to utilize Rare Candy. I do sort of feel like if there are two different Stage 2 Pokemon that have good synergy together, I think that's sort of the best way to go so that you can play a bunch of Pokemon in the deck, you know, 4 basic Pokemon, 4 Stage 2 Pokemon. Let's bench the Froakie, and then you play 2 Comms, 2 Rare Candy, 2 Pokeball, 2 Research, and it does make the deck a lot more consistent than it really has any business being, which is just absolutely incredible. Let's go ahead, Water Shuriken this active, Nidoran, and then we'll go ahead and just KO whatever's on our bench. So our opponent was playing kind of a meme deck. This, of course, wasn't anything super strong or super meta, but you can, I guess, just sort of project what we did here with our deck against really any other deck in the format and see how it could be absolutely insane. So again, the flexibility to be able to basically attack your opponent's Pokemon anywhere on the board means we don't have to play things like Sabrina or Cyrus, and we don't have to worry about any of that. We can really just sort of get our Pokemon set up as consistently as possible. Again, that's why I wanted to run sort of a maximum consistency build, but Greninja does give this deck a lot of power and just a lot of advantages in the late game as well. So I wanted to be as quick as possible. I think that Decidueye definitely does well being really fast-paced, but at the other side of things, it does have a lot of legs into the late game, and Greninja definitely fixes a lot of that math problems, but also, you know, you don't really need that bench damage that early from Greninja because Rowlet can do its attack, right? If you need to target a bench Pokemon, as long as they don't heal. So the extra, damage to the bench is relevant in the late game, but it's not always like the most needed thing in the world. Let's lead off with Rowlet, and I am going to bench the Froakie because those are 2 Pokemon that I think we always want to go with, and we are looking to be playing against a Solgaleo deck. Now, Solgaleo is actually a little bit scary because it also has that potential to attack on turn 2. So one thing we might notice in this video, and there's another Froakie, we're going to go Pokeball into Research here. One thing that you'll notice in this video and in your experience in playing Pokemon Pocket since this new set's come out No rare candy yet. So let's go ahead and just pass here. One thing you'll probably notice, we went first again, which is unfortunate, but I believe that this format is going to be very explosive, very much sort of, fast-paced and RNG dependent. I think there's going to be so many scenarios where even though your deck list has the advantage, your opponent just sort of gets that rare candy combination out early, and there's really not a lot you can do. However, as we see here, we are able to go directly into rare candy this turn. However, we might kind of wait on that because we do have Dartrix and Decidueye in our hand, and the big upside to Dartrix is that it has 1 energy in its attack cost. So because we went second, it's definitely advantageous probably for us to not use that rare candy on Decidueye, just evolve into Dartrix, attach, and attack for 30 this turn. And then what I might actually do is play Pokemon Communications, away this Froakie to potentially find a Greninja here, which we could then use with rare candy, which would be really good, and we do get it. So absolutely crazy. This deck list is just phenomenal. I'm telling you, it's way more consistent than it has any business being. I've done a little bit of testing, and I did some of my own kind of personal mathematics and statistics, which is kind of a nerd stuff. Pokemon Zone actually had a pretty good article on it, by the way, as well, talking about the best way to utilize rare candy. And I do believe one of the best ways to utilize it is, like I said, to play 2 different stage 2 Pokemon that synergize well together, do 2 different 2-1-2 lines, so 4 basics, 4 stage 2s, and 2 stage 1 Pokemon, and then play your 2 rare candies. Our opponent is going to immediately evolve, which is absolutely terrifying. It's actually the one thing we didn't want to have happen here. So we are going to get KO'd. Okay. So this might have been a misstep, okay? We didn't, I guess to be fair, we didn't expect this to happen. But again, going second gives him that advantage so that he can attack. Now we could have evolved up the Decidueye, that might have been the correct play, but he would have just 2-hit KO'd us anyway, right? So this is definitely going to be a loss here. Unfortunately, that turn 2 Solgaleo, and that's exactly what I was talking about, guys. So listen, Solgaleo is a really, really strong card, but going second is super advantageous in so many different scenarios. Now, you could have called that a misplay, of course, like we could have rare candied into Decidueye, but you got to realize it wouldn't have mattered because he would have just 2-hit KO'd us anyway, right? And we wouldn't have been able to KO him. So going second was definitely advantageous for our opponent there, but he also did get a little bit lucky in that turn 2 Solgaleo rare candy combination. But like I said, there's nothing we can do about that, right? That's what we're going to be noticing a lot in the format. So no matter what deck you're playing, whether it's Greninja, whether it's maybe the new Charizard or Decidueye or really anything, going second I think is going to be very, very advantageous. If we were going second in that scenario, we would have just won the game. All right, let's hop into another match and see what Decidueye and Greninja can do. So the format right now feels really, really interesting because I think with all of the rare candy decks and all of the stage 2 decks, like going second is going to be so good. And for the most part, if both opponents, you and your opponent, get like the same sort of quality of card draws and same luck, going second's probably going to almost always result in a win. That's just sort of how the game is. I think now with stage 2 Pokemon and a lot of the stage 2 Pokemon that people are going to be running with rare candy have sort of that 1 or 2 energy in their attack cost. So it's definitely going to be very advantageous to go second. I probably would assume. Now we lead off with rare candy. And let's play research right off the gate. So 2 X speeds. So kind of crazy to lead off with both X speeds. So there is a Greninja and a Dartrix, which is kind of crazy. So I think what we're going to do here, now we could Pokecom this turn, but I'm not that afraid of getting like red carded or Marsed. Now we could technically like Pokemon Communications, but the odds of us finding a basic Pokemon out of that are like 50%. So I don't really feel super confident playing it this turn. We could get red carded, we could get hit with Mars, but we're just going to go ahead and pass. Now, one thing that you're also going to see a lot in this format is basically these Psychic type Giratina decks, because there's a lot of good partners to it. Mewtwo with Gardevoir is really, really good. We have the new Lunala, so there's a lot of opportunities for Giratina to be really good in Psychic dominant decks. We are also going first again, which is really, really bad. Our opponent is going to be able to attack us on turn 3 here. Okay, so an interesting scenario that we have sort of faced. We are going to Pokecom now away the Greninja just to potentially find a Decidueye off this or another basic. So we do find the Decidueye, which is actually really good. So we're going to go ahead, attach, and evolve with just into the Dartrix because we have it. And we'll just hit for 30. So we're not able to do the full combo, of course, to do, to KO this Giratina, but he can't attack us this turn either. So what we can realistically do is just evolve into Decidueye next turn, hit him with the active. Okay, we get Ionode, which is crazy with our opponent having like 6 cards in hand. Do we find another Decidueye? Because if not, that's definitely going to be pretty bad for us. We do find Decidueye. Also, our hand is actually better than it was before, which is kind of good. So definitely an upside there. Iono is an interesting one. Now, you could play Iono in a deck like the deck we're playing, but I don't really feel like Iono is that good as the Golett comes down. Let's go. I don't think Iono is that good when you're playing a lot of Pokemon communications because in Pokeballs, you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of times where your hand isn't that big and you kind of want to keep those stage 2 or stage 1 Pokemon. You really don't want to refresh your hand because you don't know if that's going to be the case. Because we're a combo deck and we rely on a couple of different cards to be in our hand, it's typically like, it doesn't feel like that good to play Iono. At least I've tested it a little bit in this deck list. Maybe one Iono if your hand is just a complete like brick, but for the most part, I think it's probably best not to. I am actually going to go ahead and bench both of these Pokemon. And we don't have rare candy in our hand, which is kind of scary. But what we can do, though, is evolve into Decidueye, and then we're just going to go ahead and start attacking the active here. He is going to be able to hit us like for a pretty hard attack next turn. But at the very least, you know, he's not going to be like set up with anything else other than, I don't know, maybe he can get Lunala set up here, but he's got to attach to the active to hit for 130. So I think we're kind of safe for sure. Now, the 170 with Decidueye is a lot of HP, but again, that does go up to 300 if you have the new tool card. You know, I've been playing XP just because I think theoretically there are enough scenarios where you lead off with Froakie, and you want, if you're going second, you want to get that attack off with Decidueye in your second turn, so that's why it included 2x speeds, just for like maximum consistency. But if the breakpoints work out in a particular way, like maybe having that new tool card and just getting, you know, 30 extra HP on our grass Pokemon might definitely be better. You could also play red card. There's a lot of scenarios. Our opponent is retreating to the bench here, but that's, oh, he's actually gonna rare candy immediately into Lunala. Okay, that's a pretty cool play from our opponent there. Now, he can actually attack with Mega Punch this turn, which is pretty crazy because he can move the energies with Lunala. So I actually really like this. And what this does actually is puts us in a really interesting position to where we can KO this Giratina on the bench, but then we're going to be facing down this Golett with 3 energies, which is kind of scary, actually. So our opponent did get a pretty nice sort of combination here. I actually like this quite a bit. And this is a great showcase, actually, of how Lunala can be really, really effective. I think it's actually a really good card. So let's go ahead. We draw the Pokeball, which is kind of crazy. So let's see exactly what this is going to give us another Froakie. But what we can do is Pokecom away this Froakie. We don't have another rare candy in our hand, but we're definitely going to have to attack the active. I think a big priority for us is going to be evolving into this Greninja. So we do find the Frogadier, which is kind of exactly what we wanted, to be honest, next turn. So we can just sort of feel free to like, I'm going to actually Razor Leaf the active. He could be playing healing cards, but I'm kind of banking on us being able to just KO with Greninja next turn, which is definitely pretty strong. What we could also do is KO with Water Shuriken and then Skill Dive. Okay, so he does evolve. Okay, so good play for him. So hopefully he doesn't flip 2 heads with this double lariat, or else we're getting absolutely destroyed here. That would be definitely unfortunate, but we're in actually a good position with Greninja up next turn. We can KO the Giratina, and then we can go ahead and then just KO the active Golurk with Decidueye. If he does not go 2 for 2 on heads here, Golurk is kind of scary. It's a very strong Pokemon. I don't know how consistent it is, of course, but you know, it is very much enabled by Lunala. And I think what we saw here was a really interesting combination of Giratina in the active. That's 1 heads. Oh my goodness. Of course, our why wouldn't he just go double heads here, getting absolutely rocked? Okay, this is what happens when I try to record gameplay for Pokemon Pocket, but it's all good here. Okay, so now what we're actually doing is just forced to go into the Frogadier here. Maybe we okay, there's Decidueye, but no rare candy. So again, we are basically just hoping to you know, not get also hit with 2 heads again. That's sort of the that's sort of our win condition. If our opponent goes 4 for 4 here, then he kind of deserves the win, I'm not going to lie. We also have 6 cards in deck with 1 rare candy. Our Dartrix is gone. So again, we only are running 1 Dartrix, so we are reliant on our opponent did concede. Okay. I don't know exactly why he did concede, to be honest with you. We weren't going to be able to attack with Greninja next turn, so he could have very much won there. I don't know exactly why he conceded, but either way. All right, let's play one more game with Decidueye and Greninja. Pokemon Pocket doesn't really like me today. It's only giving me games where I am going first, and our deck list is definitely much stronger going second. However, we've been just playing a bunch of decks. I've been trying to get some good games for this video, but a lot of people are on, you know, the casual ladder here because ranked battles aren't out. So they're playing a lot of fun decks. They're kind of testing a lot of interesting things. So I would like a really competitive, you know, I guess, match here. We are going to be going first yet again, which for some reason just seemingly is the only thing that we're able to do when we play this deck is go first. And, you know, I would love to showcase going second because that's really where our deck shines here. And we are actually going to be playing Genetic Apex Charizard, which is very, very scary, especially since we're not going second. Going second, I actually don't feel bad at all about this matchup, but going first is tough because our opponent's going to be able to just basically be a turn ahead on everything here. We have Greninja, Dartrix, and Decidueye, which is pretty cool. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing. So Charizard, turn 3, 5 energies is very likely, realistically, in this format, because now, like, there's not nearly as many limitations as far as, like, what Pokemon our opponents are able to, you know, have in their hand, because now they have another line to get that Charizard out. So really, this deck here now just becomes a very RNG deck, and it comes almost entirely down to the Moltres coin flips. So our opponent does flip 2 heads there. That's a little bit scary, but you know what we can do here, because we're safe from, I think, getting attacked this turn, or at least getting KO'd this turn. And there's another Rowlet, which I kind of like. So I am going to evolve the Dartrix. No rare candies yet. And I'm actually going to attach to this Rowlet, and I'm going to X speed, and then because we have 2 X speeds in our hand. Otherwise, we wouldn't necessarily do this, but we are going to actually just skill dive here. And we're going to get some damage off onto this Charmander. Now, on the off chance that he doesn't KO or doesn't evolve, or on the off chance that we draw a rare candy, then we can just KO this Charmander and we're in a really good spot. Now, if we were going second and not first, this wouldn't be an issue really at all, truthfully, because like we would be able to just attack before he can KO. But we went first. We've only gone first today, which is great. He is actually going to attach to the Moltres, which is probably smart for him, and he does have the rare candy into Charizard. Okay, so shout out to our opponent. He's kind of got the entire setup here. But that's kind of what we can expect, like I said, from Genetic Apex Charizard right now. Going first is certainly going to be much tougher for any deck. Honestly, all of these decks that people are playing now, they're going to be very reliant on going second for the most part. Let's see how many coins he gets here. He's already got 2 for 3. Let's make that 4 for 6. So definitely pretty lucky from our opponent's perspective there. Not something that we love to see. We also have a Pokeball, which probably isn't super useful either. I'm not actually going to bench this yet. I feel pretty confident in not benching this currently. Okay, so now we're in a really awkward spot because he can just sort of KO with either Moltres or go into Charizard and KO, which of course doesn't feel very good. If we had gotten Greninja maybe out a turn earlier, that would have been better, I would say, for sure. But no rare candies yet. And I think we're kind of at a loss here. I don't believe there's anything we can do here. I'm trying to think, is there anything we can do here? I think because our opponent went second, we're kind of locked in. There's just nothing we can do. We can skill dive the bench Charizard. Not being able to Decidueye attack this turn is kind of the reason why we lose, to be honest with you. I'm trying to think. Let me think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're cooked. Charizard's definitely a bad matchup for our deck list in general, but like I said, if we were going second, we could have just KO'd his bench Pokemon. Actually, no, he went second Charizard, right? So I guess that's kind of the case there. There's not much we could have done about that, per se. But yeah, we're definitely locked into a pretty tough spot. Now, I guess if we draw the rare... Okay, so we do actually draw the rare candy here, which is interesting. But it doesn't actually do anything for us. Maybe it does, actually. So we can go into Greninja here. Let's do this. And then I'm actually just going to retreat into Greninja so that he can't KO unless he goes into Charizard. And I am gonna bench this Froakie, and then we're just gonna Water Shuriken the bench Charizard. The Giant Cape also might have been a pretty big difference, actually, now that I'm trying to think about it, because he would be at 140 right now, right? So if he didn't go second and he didn't get Giant Cape, I think we actually probably just would have won. I think. I'm trying to exactly think it through. So he's going to go into Charizard here, and he's probably just going to Crimson Storm. He's going to attach Crimson Storm, which means he can do it twice in a row, which again means that there's really nothing we can do here. He did go 2 out of 6 on coin flips and turn 2 rare candy Charizard and went second. So, you know, there's a great illustration to where there's literally like Charizard Genetic Apex is going to be so good because truthfully, there's like nothing that most decks are going to be able to do about it if they high roll. And that was the case before, but it's like still very much the case now, which is certainly, again, pretty tough. But let's go ahead. Let's ride it out. This Charizard here, just kind of doing its thing, man. Going second, 4 out of 6 coin flips. You know, turn 2 rare candy Charizard. I mean, quite literally the only, like, the greatest possible scenario for our opponent here. But no, I do think Charizard might actually end up being one of the top decks of this format. So there's a lot of good cards from, we'll play one more game. We'll play one more game I probably will leave in that Charizard play because we got bodied. But again, it showcases the scenarios where things are just out of your hand a lot in this format because there's going to be a lot of that, trust me. Okay, let's hop in. Let's play one more game. So yeah, I think Charizard's going to be really good. And this set list had a lot of really good cards that I think are going to be relevant in the metagame, but I think the one thing that it did, which is actually really, really cool, is that it made a lot of the older cards and a lot of the older decks a lot better. So what we might see after this particular A3 set came out is that actually some of the best decks in this format might end up being older deck lists, which is actually really cool. Okay, we're leading Froakie, we have Pokecom, Research, and Rare Candy in hand, and we are going to be going up against Gengar, which is scary. So upside for us is that we're not really playing any... We're going first again. I don't know if I've even gone second in any of these games, which is crazy here. Now, drawing into that research is actually quite nice, I'm not going to lie. So, okay. We're going to pass. So the upside against playing Gengar is that we only have 2 supporters on our deck, and they're both Professor's Research, which we will be able to play here before they can even evolve. So that is certainly like an upside, I would say. We'll see what we draw into with Research here. Again, going first is so much worse than going second in this entire format for basically every deck list. So I think that Rare Candy and all of the Stage 2 stuff really kind of made that stuff happen. Let's play Research first before we do anything. And there is it. That's we have all of our supporters all set. So double Rare Candy is kind of crazy. So we can so we can Pokecom here. Maybe we Pokecom away the Rowlet. That's an interesting play, isn't it? Very, very interesting scenarios here. I'll probably... what do we want to do here? If we evolve... Unless he's got Dawn, Rare Candy, Gengar EX, like we're safe. If we... I kind of want to bench the Rowlet, but I would like to at least have one chance to Pokecom. We're going to play the Dartrix. We're going to do this, and we are going to X-Speed into it. I would rather keep this Froakie alive for now. Our hand is a little bit awkward, but it's about kind of picking up the pieces to the puzzle here. Now, with 80 HP, I think we're safe here regardless. So we can roll the dice next turn with Pokemon Communications. But what we could do here is just Razor Wing and set up a 2-hit KO in the active Ghastly, which is certainly going to be pretty good. Now, he could evolve, he could attack, he could do several different things here. But if we do this, at least we put some pressure on our opponent here. He's going to bench a second Ghastly. I'm expecting a Gengar sort of Rare Candy play here. No, he's just going to go ahead and, yeah, he's going to be a little bit passive, which is probably smart from our opponent here. And we draw into the Frogadier. Okay, so there's a lot of scenarios that where this is just an interesting situation. He can't attack with Giratina next turn regardless, but I do kind of want to Pokecom now. This could be a misplay, but I do want to Pokemon Communications right now. But I don't know whether I want to Pokecom away the Frogadier or the Rowlet. If we've got 2 basic Pokemon in the deck and all of our Stage 2 Pokemon in the deck, so I think what we want to do is actually Pokecom away because we have 2 Rare Candies in our hand. I'm going to actually Pokecom away the Frogadier. I think that's correct. I could be incorrect in saying that, but okay, so there's the Greninja. That's totally fine. Let's Rare Candy into the Greninja. And then what we could do is like bench that Rowlet this turn. Might be beneficial actually to do so because at this point we're down 1 Rare Candy and we don't have any... Well, we have... Yeah, let's actually... I'm going to bench the Rowlet. I'm going to split the energies and then we're going to go ahead and Water Shuriken the Giratina. And hopefully get this thing whittled down to maybe get KO'd by a Decidueye. But there's no guarantee that we draw that Decidueye, right? So we got to keep that in mind here. But we can just KO the active, which is good, and we still are at full HP. And like I said, I don't think he can attack us next turn unless he's got Dawn in his hand, which he could. He could Dawn Giratina, which would be bad for us for sure. But then we were just sort of sitting and waiting until with 8 cards in our deck to draw into one of our 2 Decidueyes. So that's certainly kind of what we're looking for here. Let's see, does he have the Dawn play? A Dawn play would be crazy, but he takes damage when he plays Dawn, right? So... he does have the Dawn play. Okay, so that's what I was kind of expecting, to be honest, but that's totally fine. Again, we've got 2 more turns to just draw into Decidueye. That's really all this kind of comes down to here. And I'm not actually like too worried about it. We'll see. I mean, I could just get unlucky, right? We could have 5 cards in our deck with Decidueye. That's certainly always a possibility here. We're going to play this Pokeball, further thinning out our deck list. So now we've got 6 cards in deck with 2 Decidueyes, so things are getting a little bit hairy. But you know, we keep on keeping on. We still have potential here. He could heal up as well, which is kind of scary. But I think what we're actually going to do here is attach to Froakie, play our X speed. Yeah, we're going to feed him this Froakie for sure. And this could guarantee if he does have potions or some healing. So we're going to be able to do 40 damage to his active this turn. Water Shuriken. So we'll see. We got to just let the cards go where they may. I mean, we've got like 1 more turn. We've got 6 cards in deck, so we're going to just see. if we can potentially just draw this Decidueye. It would be unlucky for us not to have Decidueye, for sure, with only 5 cards in our deck. But certainly that always can happen. I mean, I'm not sort of disputing that. Our opponent's going to research here, so no Sabrina, no Cyrus. He is going to attack. So again, this is really all it comes down to, is if we draw into Decidueye here. He's going to actually rare Candy, go into Gengar, which is fine. We don't have any more supporters in the deck, so it doesn't matter. I don't know if he's probably not going to go into it. I assume he's just going to attack with Giratina, which is totally fine. He'll do 20 damage, we'll Shuriken. So unless we draw into Decidueye, he's going to win by being on 20 HP with this Giratina, which is definitely a little bit scary. But hey, what are you going to do? He does retreat, actually, which again is a really interesting play considering he might have Dawn again. He might have 2 Dawns in hand. We'll have to see. I don't think that was the correct play from our opponent, honestly. Let's see. Another Pokeball. Okay. All right. Not great. Not great at all. Yeah, I'm assuming he has another Dawn, right? But this kind of makes me want to just go into Greninja now, so that he can't just KO with Gengar? Right? Isn't that the correct play? I feel like it is. I'm thinking out loud here. We're going to do this, and then we're going to attach to the Rowlet. And then, yeah, we'll just Water Shuriken. This way, the Gengar can't KO us, and hopefully buying us another turn here. We are going to keep focusing on this Giratina because our win condition right now is drawing into Decidueye, so we've got to make that happen. Let's see if we can do it here. Let's wait and see. Giant Cape comes down here, so that extra damage could have been relevant. I don't know, maybe Giant Cape Potion, we'll have to see. Maybe Pokemon Center Lady, I don't know. No, he's just going to Broken Space Bellow again. So, again, we just need this Decidueye. We have got a very high chance of drawing it. There it is. Okay, so finally, we've got the goods, and that is going to be the game here. So, yeah, I mean, X Speed came in clutch in this particular scenario, but there's so many scenarios where, like, maybe swapping those X Speeds for some other cards could be really good, or maybe playing less of the Greninja line, maybe not playing Greninja, maybe playing something else with Decidueye could be better. There's so many scenarios where I think Decidueye could be really good, so we'll have to wait and see. I would love to hear your guys' opinions. You know, comment below, like, what you think the best way to play Decidueye is right now. How are you building the deck list? What are your thoughts? I would love to hear your opinions, but right now, this is my opinion. I do think Decidueye will probably be one of the strongest, if not the strongest card to come out of this new set. I think it's just super, super good. Now, again, I don't know if it'll end up being like the best deck of the format. Some of these Fire decks and Charizard decks scare me a little bit for sure, but realistically, those aren't new decks. They're just old decks that are made better now. So the best new deck to come out from this expansion, in my mind, is Decidueye. So anyway, guys, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Stay tuned. Tomorrow, we're actually going to go through the entire set list. So I wanted to showcase what I believed was the best deck, the best new deck from this particular set. And then tomorrow we're going to go ahead and do like a nice, you know, deep analysis and comprehensive look over the entire set list and talking about all of the cards, all of the strategies, things like that. And then after that, we're going to dive into deck lists. So if you're new to the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. This is the best place to go. Once we get all of the best, like all of the data and all of the information that we need to determine what the best strategies are, what the best decks are, we're going to talk about it here on the channel. So stay tuned. This is the best place to go to stay up to date on what's best in Pokemon Pocket. And anyway, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Stay tuned. Again, full set review coming tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. All right, guys. Peace out. Have a good one. We'll see you guys later. And yeah, bye.